Hi, my name is Piotr and welcome to Privacy by Design in Software Engineering. I'm a PhD candidate and I focus on privacy and data protection by design. In my day-to-day work within privacy and security engineering, I basically mix legal requirements with technical requirements and I support privacy on a various layers. What I'm going to teach you in this video is some high-level information on privacy by design practices. So I will share with you what are the core ingredients of privacy by design. I will tell you what privacy by design is. So I will tell you what are the principles and pros and cons of privacy by design. In addition to that, I will tell you what are the rights of the data subjects on the high level, so I won't get into too much detail in the area of legal, and I will try to help you or guide you with different questions you can ask to yourself or to your team to succeed in the area of privacy. And as a last step, I will tell you how to embed privacy by design into software engineering. So I will share some strategies on privacy by design, how to use them, and I will present you a short case study how privacy by design principles and how privacy by design strategies could be applied to succeed in the area of privacy. What are the most important ingredients you'll need to learn to succeed in the area of privacy engineering? Firstly, you need to learn the fundamentals. One of them is privacy by design principles. It's a series of 7 principles which will guide you and your team in the decision-making process around privacy of your end users. Second ingredient you'll need to learn is high-level requirements on data protection by design, which come from GDPR. So this regulation will put on top of that a lot of complexity to your systems, but it's important to comply with data protection regulations. Those will be your basis for compliance. Being aware and making your team aware of these requirements will help you achieve your privacy goals. Second core element, which you'll need to learn and understand, is your business. So you need to learn how your business operates. So ask yourself some questions: how your business generates revenue, who is your customer, what is happening to the data, where the data is located, and who has access to the data. Knowing that will also be guided through some additional questions such as how software is built, what is your tech stack. So there's a lot of moving elements which you'll need to learn and understand so you can perform really well in the area of privacy engineering. But that's not all. In the second part, you also need to learn how to manage. You need to learn how to manage risks to your end users. Knowing and learning that will help you work with your team to mitigate some specific risks and reduce the legal risks which are implied from GDPR. What else you should learn and manage is the software development lifecycle or manage your third parties. Those are another layer of complexity in the area of privacy engineering. So knowing all the interactions between your systems and systems of third parties that support you or in one or other way will also help with protection of privacy of your end users. So please take here the risk-based approach to improve that. The last section, which is strongly tied to privacy by design, is implementation and avoidance. So the technical part of that is privacy enhancing technologies. These are the technologies you may want to implement to protect your end user's privacy. However, you have to be very careful when choosing various technologies to avoid privacy invading technologies. I will speak about both of these a bit later in the presentation. Knowing and managing all of the above which I've explained will make your life so much easier to perform well as privacy engineer. What is privacy by design? Privacy by design is a series of 7 principles which will help you with solving common privacy problems. However, you'll need to be aware of the privacy by design versus data protection by design. In theory, these two are very similar concepts, but the first one, privacy by design, is a theoretical concept. The other one is a legal instrument coming from GDPR, and both have quite similar goal to protect personal data and privacy. In practice, there are some differences between these two instruments, and we're not going to cover them in too much detail, and both will be merged into a single concept. What is important to note is that you will need to follow much more just principles of privacy by design, as you'll need to fulfill legal requirements coming from GDPR. So for this presentation, when I will speak about privacy by design or data protection by design, let's assume those will be the same. However, at some point in the presentation, I will give some additional description to some legal elements which are important to remember about. First principle is being proactive, not reactive, preventative, not remedial. Well, quite frequently, companies tend to take an approach which is reactive. They react after something happens. When the damage is done and specific event occurs, they will take action. This is quite common, unfortunately. However, the best approach is to address various issues before they even happen. Goal of this principle is to execute so-called risk-based approach. With this kind of approach, you can foresee some specific risks and apply various measures to protect privacy of your end users. Second principle is the privacy as the default setting. Your end users should not take any action to protect their privacy. By default, their privacy should be protected within your systems and technologies. So you should set various automations so they don't have to take any action. So personal data should be collected, used, and disclosed only when the user is consenting for that specific activity, or there is a specific legal basis which would allow to do so. So this is the principle of the privacy as the default setting. Third principle is privacy embedded into design. Essentially, privacy should not be just a function or an add-on to your system. It should be embedded fully into the design of your product and its infrastructure, so you can operate your business with privacy in mind. This is the default approach to the privacy, which should help you prevent some specific complicated activities after your product is released. Sometimes there is a risk if you don't implement privacy early, you're at risk of rewriting most or whole software. Fourth principle, full functionality, positive sum, not zero sum. Privacy by design seeks one specific thing, which is win-win scenario. So the main objective of privacy by design is to find a solution for having security, performance, and privacy. So the goal is to have it all and don't cut corners on some specific areas of privacy. You should help your team avoid unnecessary compromises. Security and privacy should coexist together, and at this capacity, it should keep your operations going. Fifth principle is end-to-end security in the whole life cycle. This means that security is one of the fundaments of privacy protection, and privacy cannot be guaranteed without security. So this means that you should protect your data in the all existing steps of data lifecycle. So from the data collection through data storage up until data removal. Sixth principle, visibility and transparency, keeping it open. This specific principle means that the data controller should be fully transparent and accountable with their policies, privacy policies, towards the end users. This means that they should be communicated, they should be open and available to those who are interested in them. But that's not all. Data controllers should be also undergoing independent third-party audits. This means that what they say would be verified against the facts. That's the most important part of being transparent and keeping it open for the end user. Seventh principle is to respect for user privacy. Keep it user-centric. Well, the interests of the individuals are the most important and essential part of the data processing. They should be in the center of any data management process. And this includes, for example, full control over personal data of your end users. This means that they should be always informed about the processing. They should receive easy to understand privacy policies, and they should be given various options around their privacy. So this means that specific legal basis should be used, such as consent, before any processing happens. And the data should be kept fully accurate, and they should have access to the information. What is the most important bit is that your end users have the right to challenge the accuracy of the data that is in your system. This means that the data should be changed whenever it is necessary. What are the pros and cons of privacy by design approach? Well, on the positive side, privacy by design is only a series of 7 rules, and they are quite simple, which means that they are quite easy to learn, and they also are quite easy to teach within various engineering teams. In addition, it's quite easy to add them as part of your processes. So you don't have to build very complicated documents, Excel documents for your teams. to follow privacy by design approach. However, there's some negative parts. Basically, privacy by design principles are very generic and they are hard to interpret. And this means that privacy by design is quite difficult to master. So you can't really skip the legal requirements. You need to learn them anyway. This means that privacy by design be, being implemented in your organization is not the only thing you need to remember about. You also need to remember about what I've said in the beginning, such as you'll need to learn legal requirements, you'll need to learn some tech part, so what kind of solutions you could use to improve your end users' privacy, but also you need to include the management and business parts. This means that privacy by design can't really live on its own, but it needs to live with all other moving elements to be performing really well in your organization. Apart from privacy by design and data protection by design, you should also be aware of the rights of the data subjects. For example, right to be informed, right to be forgotten, and right to data portability are just examples of various rights which are connectable and linkable with privacy by design concept. The link between this theoretical concept and legal requirements may help you to understand and apply various privacy practices in your day to day software engineering processes. To make your engineering process easier, you should frequently ask yourself and your team some questions around the processing. For example, these questions include: do you have a legal basis for the processing of personal data? What kind of data do you store? How do you protect the data from being leaked or misused? How do you manage third parties? And how do you know if users should have access to specific data? And these and many other questions around the data, around the processing, will help you both learn the principles and apply them in real life scenarios, and also will help you with moving to specific problems related to tech. Apart from privacy by design principles, there are privacy by design strategies. These strategies will help you with implementation of privacy by design. So, in the little blue book, there were 8 privacy by design strategies, such as minimize, separate, abstract, hide, inform, control, enforce, and demonstrate. Minimize means that the amount of personal data should be kept to complete minimum. If you would not need the data right now, you should not collect it at all. Separate means that any personal information that is processed in the system should be hidden and disconnected from the plain view. So data separation will help you with additional protection of personal data. Abstract means that the processing of personal data should be done in only distributed fashion whenever it's possible. Hide means that personal data should be processed at the highest level of aggregation with the least possible detail, which is still useful. Inform that data subjects should be informed correctly whenever personal data is processed. The control aspect means that data subjects should have full power over the processing of their personal information. Enforce means that a privacy policy compatible with legal requirements should be in place and should be enforced. Demonstrate means that compliance with the policy and any applicable legal requirements should be made accountable by the controller. Well, these strategies have their cons and pros. Again, they are high level as data protection by design and privacy by design, but they are a bit more detailed than privacy by design principles. In the Little Blue Book, you can find additional descriptions with examples of these strategies, so they may also help you in real world scenarios. Let's get to our case study. So, let's imagine that you have a system which is focused on the data reporting. And before the release of a new reporting feature, for your product, you notice something is wrong with one of your main features. You started testing a specific solution where you display your results by groups which are assigned to specific people in the system. Business expectation is to return anonymized results. Well, the results are indeed anonymized, but when results in a group view could be de-anonymized by the admins. What does it mean? Well, the admins of the system could change a group of a user so they could understand if some user answered more positive or more negative. So this tells a story that one specific user can discover some more positive, more negative answers of some specific people. How do you fix that specific problem with privacy by design mindset? Well, as a step one, you need to understand the risk. Well, data de-anonymization is the main risk here. And what you need to ask yourself, what is the vulnerability exploitation path? How many users are affected? Who can exploit it? And if you collect this data, you can also dig deeper, and that's the most important part, into, well, specific area. What does it mean for the data subject in this specific business case? What's the impact on the end users? When you know answers to these questions, you will understand what is the specific risk in your situation. And you have some choices. You have to apply privacy by design techniques, and you can apply privacy by design strategies. So you have a chance to select those which will help you to solve your problem. So in this specific situation, what would be useful is being proactive, so proactively looking for a solution before it hits the production, keeping the full functionality, so finding a win-win scenario to fixing the vulnerability in your system is also important from privacy by design approach. And respecting for user privacy is also super important. Well, let's go to step 2, finding the fix for the problem. You notice that your management does not want to drop the feature due to just this specific issue. They want this new feature to be released ASAP. So you need to check your strategies. And for this scenario, the possible strategies is to minimize or hide. So let's check if we can use minimize or if we can use hide. Technically, what you've discovered in your steps is that you can't really take any less data, you can't remove any data, so you need to keep the volume of data, the scope of data at the same level. And the only solution for this is to hide the data. But how you can hide the data if, well, you've got your admins who have a bit more access and control over your groups in the system? Well, you could figure out some complicated techniques to protect the data and modify the feature, but you know that it would take quite a lot of time to fix that. And what are the possible strategies? Well, you have to use privacy enhancing technologies. But what is important, what kind of technology you could use? And that's not the easy answer. Sometimes some technologies may not be designed just for protection of privacy, but in some specific use cases, you may improve privacy by using those technologies. And in this specific scenario, we will use caching as privacy enhancing technology. So whenever a user would want to visit this website, you would cache the data, so even if a group would be changed, the data would still persist in cache. Knowing the risks to the end users, knowing how the system operates, you can accept that changing the groups within 3 months or 6 months, so keeping longer cache, would be just enough to protect privacy and keep the functionality. So that's one example, very simple example, how you can use various privacy by design strategies in connection with privacy by design and privacy enhancing technologies that are not always designed for those privacy types of protection, but they can also give the right level of protection for your needs. To summarize, what you've learned today is the high-level principles of privacy by design. You've learned the strategies of privacy by design. You've become more aware of legal requirements connected to protection of personal data, and also you've learned some high-level information of the key ingredients for, well, being effective privacy engineer. And you've connected that with me into one case study, which shown that you don't always have to use complicated privacy enhancing technologies, which are designed only for privacy protection, but you can always use some other or typical technologies to improve privacy within your systems. Thank you for your attention. If you'd like to add me or contact me, please use LinkedIn or contact me through email, through my website. Thank you for attention.